Alright, so let's see how well does the Samsung Epic 4G from Sprint, how does it compare when browsing the internet? Now, one of the things I did is I connected both of these devices to my Wi-Fi network at home. We already know that the AT&T network isn't all that great, so it wouldn't be a fair comparison. So what I want to do is compare just the hardware. How does the hardware perform? So let's look and see. We're going to go to tabletsforme.com. I got both devices here ready, so I'll try to hit both buttons at the same time, and let's see how well they perform. Again, both of them are connected to my Wi-Fi network to make the test fair, and we'll see how information comes up. So tabletsforme.com is almost complete, not quite yet, and the Epic finished before the iPhone. A little bit, just slightly, as you can see. Let's try looking at a different site. Alright, so now we're going to compare CNN.com. Let me do this. There they go. That was pretty close. I still think that the Epic was slightly ahead, not too bad though. Good speed. Again, these are mobile sites that we're going to, so they're not the full site, so that may have made a difference. Alright, now let's try a different site. Let's go to cnet.com. And they're both going to mobile versions. And the Epic is done before the iPhone. This time it was well ahead of the iPhone. Still waiting. Still waiting. Finally finished. Wow, that was a big difference. Now let's try a site that everybody goes to. Let's look at Facebook. Let's take a look and see how does that work. Facebook.com. That was close. Oh, that was really close. So both of them perform very fast. So if you're a Facebook user, your experience may not be that different when it comes to Facebook. Nice. This will be our last comparison, speed comparison. So let's go to xdadevelopers.com on both of the phones and see how they perform. They look pretty close. They're still, neither of them are finished yet. Taking a little bit longer. Uh-oh, looks like the iPhone's going to beat it. Maybe not. The Epic is done and the iPhone is still loading. Not that big of a difference. So as you can see from a speed perspective, certain sites perform better on the Samsung Epic. It probably just has to do with how the websites are formatted, but it does perform well in some cases. When you compare it to the iPhone 4, I would say they're very comparable. If you really think about your usage as an average user, if you go to Facebook, if you go to Google, if you go to some of those light pages, and even the heavier pages, it's not that big of a deal because you do see some of the content and you could still look at the browsing. However, one thing to note is, again, look at how much clearer the content is on the actual Samsung, and that has to do with the sheer size versus the actual iPhone. I do have the brightness up a little bit more on the iPhone, so it looks a little bit brighter, but from here, they're both some really nice devices. Alright, so now let's check out gameplay and see what the differences are with the games. Now what I did is I chose, I installed a game that I felt that's comparable on both devices. A lot of the games that are coming out for the iPhone are also coming out for the Android. So I chose Gun Bros. Now each one of these games, I'll put it in landscape mode because that's how it's probably going to come up. Each one of these games basically will stop because there's some type of login process. So maybe the startup is not going to be fair, but at least you'll be able to see what the gameplay is like and how quickly both of them load. So I will start. I'll try to start them up at the same time. This one's going to log into my Facebook account, which it did. In the same place. The Epic, a little bit faster, most likely due to the processor. Let's start the game up. Go ahead, exit out of that. Do the single player. closer. Go to a planet. I'm not going to go into a Gumbro. Now let's go ahead and we'll check out gameplay on this device, and then we'll go on to the next, because that'll be the easiest. So I'm going to go into the first planet and try the gameplay. And give it a second to load. It's a little better. Alright, so again, high resolution graphic game. You can move around, and it's a shooter game. So again, not bad. Good experience. Again, great graphics on the iPhone. Let's see what it looks like now on the Epic. Put this into the side. Let's go to a planet. I've been playing this on the Android for some time now, so I'm up there pretty high. So what I'll do is I'll go to one of the first levels, just to do a fair comparison. Let me turn off the volume on the iPhone. It's getting a little annoying. Alright, so here's the game. Alright, I gotta say, size, so far size does matter. So here we have the gameplay, as you can see. It's almost like playing on a PlayStation Portable. I've got to say that, again, the size of the graphics and the screen, just the fact that it has a larger screen, does make a difference. But once again, as you look at these games, you really can't tell that much difference between playing on an iOS device and an Android device. So if you've ever been concerned about, well, should I get an iPhone or should I get an Android because of the apps? Yeah, the Apple phone or the iPhone does have more apps than Android does, but the games are catching up. And as you can see here, if we compare these two games side by side, they're virtually identical when it comes to the screens, if you notice them, and the gameplay. I'll have to give the edge onto the Epic because of the size. It's just larger, and again, it's almost like playing on a PlayStation Portable. So that's a comparison of gameplay on the actual Epic and on the iPhone. Alright, so here's another thing that we all do with our phones, and that's listen to music. So to make things fair, I have the iPhone 4 and the Samsung Epic 4G, both logged into my Google Beta music account. And we're going to listen to just a couple seconds of Adele just to see how they compare. So let's go ahead and start with Rolling in the Deep. I hit play, make sure it's at the beginning.
There's a fire starting in my heart, reaching a fever pitch and it's bringing...
Alright, now let's compare that to the Google phone, or actually the Samsung. Let's go ahead and choose play.
There's a fire starting in my heart, reaching a fever pitch and it's bringing me out the dark. Finally,
As I don't know how it sounds on the recording, but if you can tell the difference, they're pretty close. I'd say that the iPhone probably sounds a bit better. The Samsung is a little echoey, but very, very, very light. I think it may be due to the construction because it is the iPhone is a little bit more solid as a device, and the fact that the iPhone actually has two speakers on the bottom, and the actual Samsung Galaxy 2 Epic only has one opening on the bottom. But once again, they both play music, and they play music well, and they both have access to Google Music. Alright, so the next thing we do with phones is we actually look at pictures. So this is the exact same photo on both devices. It was taken with a different camera, but we'll see what it looks like on each one of these phones. So let's go ahead and open them up. Open up with the gallery. And again, this is a picture I took while I was vacationing in Puerto Rico, and this is in San Juan, a castle called El Morro. And for the most part, moving around the picture, pretty much the same. the experience is the same. There is a slight difference in colors. This is something that if you have to see it to really see the difference. The Samsung Galaxy S2 Epic 4G's screen is just absolutely gorgeous. The IPS AMOLED LED is really a beautiful screen. Some will say that it's oversaturated. I will agree to a certain extent that it is. The colors are vibrant and maybe sometimes too vibrant. So it really comes down to taste. The iPhone, the colors are not as vibrant, and some may say that the colors are more realistic. But again, it comes down to a matter of choice. I can tell you that looking at the two pictures, the pictures both look great. One pops out a little bit more. The brightness comes out, the darkers come out even better, and again the changes in color are very much more apparent here with the Samsung device. iPhone 4, great picture, lots of detail, and this is as far as I can go there. With this one I can zoom in a little bit more so you can see the ground. But this is the experience with looking at photos on both devices. So the last thing I'll compare today is the picture taking ability. Now, there are not many functions available on the iPhone. It's a pretty straightforward phone. And one of the things that both of these phones compare in is that neither of them have a dedicated button on the physical phone for taking pictures, which is something that's disappointing. But the basic software on the iPhone is very, very simple. So you have the ability to change your flash to either auto on or off, and then you have this high definition photography option that you can choose, and you can switch between the video modes. So it's pretty basic. There are a lot of different apps that you can purchase, and the apps give you many more capabilities than what you have here on the iPhone. And obviously there's also a zoom and zoom out. Let's look now at the Samsung. Samsung gives you the ability, just as the iPhone does, and that was one thing make sure I mention, you do have the ability to rotate the camera front and back, and the same thing is available here on the Epic. You have the flash, so you can do the auto on and off as well. You also have the ability to have additional settings, so you can have some shortcuts that are created that appear here on the side so that you can edit what buttons you want to see. You have self-portrait mode, auto flash, shooting mode, a single shot. You also have the ability to do the smile shot. There's a lot of different options of things that you can choose and special effects that you can get out of the camera. You also have here different scene modes, right? So you have portrait, landscape, night modes, beach modes, dawn, color, fireworks, text. There's a lot of different options that you have. Exposure values, focus modes, timers. You have special effects if you want to choose some. Again, negative, grayscale, or sepia. You have your resolution that you can play with, auto balance. Again, these are some basic things that you find. Anti-shake, which is great to have, auto contrast, blink detection. You can turn on guides, review, determine your image quality. As you can see here, your GPS tag, and where it's going to be stored. So if you want to change it from your phone to your memory card, which is what I typically do. And again, any of these shortcuts can be added to this bar here. It does support the ability to do video, and it does shoot HD video. So if we were to say phone to phone, obviously or one of the things, as we mentioned earlier, the Samsung Epic is an 8 megapixel camera, so it does overtake in a megapixel sense, what here the iPhone 4 can support. However, the Samsung out of the box has better software. It just seems that it has so many more options for you to just use. So again, unfortunately with the Samsung, one of the things that's a little disappointing for me is the fact that it doesn't have a dedicated button that you have to touch the screen. I'll probably have to look for some software that will allow me to maybe trigger the up and down volume rocker as a way to take the photo. But that's what the camera software looks like.